Hi, I'm Hero, and I have something to say, and you're going to listen to it. I want to talk about creativity. They try to censor black people by taking away our means to create. And the absence of creativity is slavery. And we're at the point where we really have to decolonize our creativity. We have gotten to the point in society where theft has literally scared us from sharing our art. And we're at the point where, selling our art is just as intimate as selling our bodies, and people don't realize that. Sharing our art is just as intimate as sharing our bodies. And it gets to the point where we are almost exhausted of people taking from us, but that cannot stop us from creating on a regular basis. And some of the ways that they also stop us from creating, beyond thinking about, oh, if I post this, someone can take this away from me, someone can slap their name on it and just change it a little bit. Beyond that, they try to teach us that there is this lack of resources. I feel like, especially when I'm online talking about any artist, whether it's a musician, or it's a artist who paints or draws or any of that, the first thing they're saying is art supplies is so expensive, and that is one filter they try to put on our brains to say this is something between you and your creativity. That does not exist. Because even back in the day during slavery, when they did try to take away our creativity, it always, even in the worst situations, our people always found time to hum. We always found time to hum. We were making art before Michaels and Blick art supplies even existed. Clay is literally made from dirt. So why is accessibility through random art supplies or anything like that stopping you from creating, stopping you from making things? You might have clothes that you could literally cut up. A needle and thread costs less than $1. Pens and paper and all that are abundant. Yet you want to use money as an excuse not to create. That's one of the ways that they literally shackle us in our minds from thinking that creating on a regular basis is inaccessible. But let's say it's like, oh, I have a whole bunch of art supplies in my house. Or, yes, I do have access to a lot of art stuff. The next shackle they put on us is time. They try to tell us there's no time to create. Whether we're running around working our jobs, or we're taking care of our children, or we're dating, or we're doing this third thing, we're trying to get life together as human beings. They try to tell us that we do not have enough time to create, when creating is something that is quick. Creating is something that we should do it throughout the day. And I feel like when it comes to hobbies, capitalism put us in a place where we think that we have to cut out all this time just to create. No, you have to embody yourself as a creative being all the time. Whether that comes out through you sketching, or you just sitting down for a few minutes before bed, doing something with your hands, creating. And creativity goes beyond being an artist. Creativity goes beyond just being an artist. You don't have to be a painter to be a creative. And I feel like we're also in a day and age where creative is such a broad term. But we're at the point where you have to pay attention to when it comes to creativity, especially when it comes to accessibility. If things they try to tell us to make art seem inaccessible. I feel like when it comes down to it, you have to go back and actually look at children. You typically do not have to teach children to be creative, but you need to encourage the things that make them creative. I feel like in the last like 50 years or so, like it's come down to children being silent, and the creativity has almost been beaten out of them. They've been called disrespectful. They've been saying they're wasting time. They're saying things that couldn't make them money, or like things like random things that make them be less creative and make them be quiet and make them not act on their creative impulses. Because honestly, like, creativity manifests in so many different ways. Creativity manifests through, they can be good at business, they be good at programming, math, public speaking. All of those things are means to creativity. And especially when you're a mom who might be doing a lot of things or working a lot, like, let's say your child plays a lot of video games and you're okay with them consuming video games all day. Why don't you think your child could be a programmer? You do not have to pay for a coding boot camp or anything for your child to be a programmer. There are so many free boot camps online. There are so many free resources that are available to you to foster your child's creativity, to grow your child's creativity. And I feel like knowledge is such a free thing, but capitalism has got us to the point where we don't trust free anymore. That's why people don't read. Reading is a form of creativity because it helps to expand your mind. It helps expand your vocabulary. It helps you articulate yourself better. It makes you feel stronger. And I feel like other things, like when it comes down to gender, because of course most genders have to be creative, but when it comes down to the things that separate us from creativity, I think as a woman, especially a Black woman, I feel like, especially when I'm making my art, I'm making my drawings, I'm sharing my drawings with the world, especially between the Black men and the Black women, there's been so much, so many things tearing us apart, to the point where we do not listen to each other when we are expressing ourselves creativity. And I feel like as a woman, I feel like especially with the internet where we share art the most, like, men don't necessarily create art like they used to. They rather argue with female artists talking about the female experience versus, and like in the same breath ignoring the harm that females experience, and they won't acknowledge what they're saying through their art. Like, it gets to the point where men won't even talk about their own experiences in their own art. They rather talk about female experiences, and they're almost talking about them wrong. I feel like art is meant to silence our heartbreak. And like, and that's a big statement for me. Art is meant to silence our heartbreak. And the restriction of creativity is like putting a gag on someone that's trying to scream. We are beyond documenting. I feel like as artists and people who create art, like, right now we're in the age of the photograph. And I feel like back in the olden days when people were making art and stuff like that, like when the Black art movement happened in the 1970s, it was a boom of Black and brown people creating art, but they created art of our faces. They were drawing Black and brown people over and over again, and black art was only when it was showing Black faces versus art that is made by a Black person. And that's why people like Faith Ringgold and other artists, they struggle to be accepted as Black artists because they weren't necessarily drawing faces in that day and age. But like when people were drawing these influx of faces and getting them out to the public, they were doing that because within like the last 100, 200 years of art, there were no photographs. There was no camera. So when it came down to it, when white artists were coming up and everything, the main job for artists were to document. Their job was to paint famous people, to paint the presidents, paint figures, because there was no camera to do so. So, of course, when there's a black art movement, we're going to draw pictures of ourselves. We're going to draw pictures of ourselves again and again and again because no one has seen us for an extremely long time. And there's very rare occasions where you will see black people represented in art from back then because a lot of our art, even if it was made, it got lost, it got burned, it got destroyed. So for at least 50 years, we were playing catch up. And the goal was representation. Even today, whatever a black person creates, it can't just be like, yeah, this is my film and it's full of black folks because, again, black folks surround my life. It's literally because most of the time it's representation. Because we're still pushing for representation. And that's why we're also still in this loop of painting ourselves. That's why, like, honestly, when a black person even decides to paint something different than painting a picture of ourselves, people will ask stupid questions like, when are you going to create some black art? And, like, even being a part of art shows, like, going to art shows and, like, seeing someone just paint a picture of a cherry, right? I thought that cherry was really cute. And, like, I asked him why he painted a cherry. And he was just like, it was a still life of a cherry. And that's honestly enough. But if I painted a cherry, right, I feel like people will ask for another level of understanding with it. Like, oh, you painted a cherry because you were trying to represent in time how Usher is doing that cherry thing at the concerts and you want to show the hypersexualization of the black man. And that might sound out there to someone who's not thinking. Someone who has not lived as a black artist. Because honestly, all black people are artists, whether they're dancing, they're singing, they're doing math, they're creating. Like, you are an artist, you are a creative. It's just whether you want to embrace what your creativity is. And creativity goes beyond monetization. It goes into the way you live. It should be part of your life. You are a creative before you are anything else. You are a creative before you're black. You're creative before you're a woman. You're creative before you're gay, straight, or bi. You are a creative first. You are a being first. And, like, honestly, like, I feel like now it kind of sucks that, like, we're in this age of, like, we're in the age of the photograph, right? But it's also terrifying because we're also in an age where we can't tell if that photograph is real or not. We don't know if that photograph is real. And we've hit this epidemic of, like, digital blackfishing, or people making those crawfish mukbang videos using AI black people and all those things, but we're making music or making things that we get no credit for. But once all that stuff dies out, right, where are they going to get their next idea from? You cannot nothing can be created, especially that is marketable across the entire world, by anyone but black people. African American people. And African Americans are almost the smallest populace of the entire world. But we impact the entire world. Like, you're only going to see pullback on stuff like AI and stuff like that when they need something new. Yeah, those crab leg videos, they're cute now. But when they're looking for a new trend, they're going to pull back. They're going to pull back so that we can create something new so that they can reproduce it. And honestly, like, I feel like this is probably one of my most controversial opinions, but I feel like virtual ablos, like 3% rule, is almost the downfall of the black creative. And I know people saw it as a height of wisdom when they were talking about, like, take something familiar and change it by 3%. You'll get that familiarity, and it'll also be adaptable to audiences, and it'll be easier to sell. Of course it's going to be easier to sell when it's something that's already been created before, but that's when you hit those problems where you have anybody who can put a random phrase on a t-shirt, the same t-shirt that was mass produced by some factory somewhere with just one new word on it. I don't need a shirt that says pressure on it. I don't need pants that say pressure on it. I don't. That is not being creative. That is you creating for the source of making money. That is not being creative. And I think the biggest gag for that is the fact that, like, even after he passed, like, there's now like white people who are regurgitating that statement, switching it by 3% and not putting any of his credit on it. I feel like him opening his mouth to say something like that and making it like a rule that people should follow, whether it's in fashion, whether it's in literature, whether it's in art, whatever you apply it to, you, as a black man, why are you giving other people the green lights to colonize anyone's art, especially black art? Because you can't say any art did not originate without black people. Black people created all art. African American people created all art. And when I say black, I mean African American. We created all art. And yes, I say African American because yes, we originated in Africa. And that's where the Van Goghs and that's where all them got their inspiration from their art from. Stuff that they stole from Africa. And as it came down to it, like, we got to the point where black people created all art. We are the original creatives. We need to continue to be the original creatives. Black creativity is essential for the survival of the world. Not just black people, not just people of color. The entire world is nothing without us. What else are they going to steal from us? We are not going to thrive until we realize the myth of inaccessibility stops. As soon as you decenter yourself from the ideas of, I need extra time, I need extra money, I need this, I need that, you have everything you need. You have all the knowledge that you need to be a creative because it is in you. It's in your blood, but it's in your blood. It's part of your ancestry. Why are you stuck as a consumer and not a creator? How many times do you go online and you see something and you're just like, I can make this myself? Then why not go make it yourself? What is stopping you from taking those few hours to go make it yourself? Because the trade off is you either take 3 hours to go make it yourself or go to work for 3 hours and make money to pay for it. What is the difference? You have to shape yourself from being a consumer to a creative. If you are a creative woman, you need to stand up and give into your creativity. Because as a woman, when you give into your creativity, I promise you, it will develop every aspect of your life. It will build your confidence. It will make you feel stronger. It will give you more energy when you go out in your days. It will make you a better mother. It will make you a better friend. It will make you a better person, a better business person. It will leave you in a state feeling financially, physically, and extremely abundant when you walk through life. Is embracing your creativity. And I feel like the biggest thing is when it comes down to creativity is they have us so separate from one another. And the only way to really get past this is to actually create spaces. Low energy spaces, you're not creating productions. We need to create spaces that almost white people can't enter. Because when it comes down to it, the only way a white person can support a black creative is financially. By buying their art, pouring back into them, donating. We need to create space. We need to create low effort spaces. And like again, like you can sit here again, you could tell me, you could be like, oh, I don't have money to rent a space. There are so many spaces that are actively available to us. We need to go to parks. We need to go to libraries. We need to meet up at people's houses again and just create art. No, you don't need to spend a whole bunch on art supplies and snacks. It has to be a community experience. We have to create those community spaces again. Whether y'all are sitting down and doodling on cardboard, or literally sitting down and writing poetry together. We have to create safe community spaces to get ahead. Because when it comes down to creativity, the biggest way to stop our creativity is stop us from interacting with one another. Even when online does not feel safe, we need to interact in person with one another. Call your friends. Talk to your friends. When you have an idea, I know everybody says you need to keep it all close to the heart, but when you have an idea, talk about it with somebody else. See how someone else feels about it. Make sure they're safe people. You can't share your ideas with somebody who was not on the same vibration as you. But you'll know. And the only way that you find out is by talking to people. Even when you're looking for jobs, we are in a place where jobs are extremely hard to find. Don't look for jobs. Create them. Realize the power that you have. Realize whether you have a degree or you don't have a degree or whatever. Stop fighting with those thousands of people on Indeed applying for the same job over and over again, and create your own. Every creative should have at least 20 ideas just ready. Whether it's an idea for an event or an idea for whatever is involved in your field. If someone said, if I would hire you right now, what would you do? You need to have at least 20 ideas available at any moment, because you are a creative and you can make things happen. If you don't have a job, you have to make one, and you have to go pitch this job to people until they give it to you. You are beyond the point of proving yourself or getting more knowledge. You do not fight other people for opportunities. You are the opportunity. You make the opportunity. Because your life is a sandbox that you can build on your own. That you have the power to build. And like literally, You control whether that wave washes up and knocks down your sandcastle. That is something you have power over and you don't even know it. You need to create with whatever you have. I already went into this. Take some printer paper from work. I know you have a pen in your house. If not, there's a pen nearby. Create with whatever you have. And do not accept, I do not have the time or I do not have the money to create. Do not accept that. Because even if you're at work, you're gonna work a job that you don't like, try to make that job creative. If it's not creative already. And if it's not creative, bring something into it that you think is creative. Expand your mind. You have to be and like when it comes down to creating, like, especially when you're sharing online, you have to be louder than the ones that are stealing from you. You have to be louder than the people that are stealing from you, and you cannot be afraid of the backlash. You can't be afraid of people calling you bitter. You can't be afraid of people calling you a liar. You have to be louder than the people who are stealing from you. You have to scream to the top of your lungs, I made this. I made this. I made this. Because at the end of the day, we all know that Elvis did not create Hound Dog. We all know that Elvis did not create that song. Whether other people want to acknowledge it or not, the people who matter, they know that Elvis did not make Hound Dog. You have to scream it to the top of your lungs, because once people know, they'll scream for you. Once people know the truth, they will advocate for you. Because you don't realize there are so many people who are also trying to correct your creativity because they feel themselves in your creativity. They see you, and they love you, and they want to protect you and your creativity so that you can keep creating. And yeah, everybody won't hear the truth, but the people who matter do, and your name and your legacy will not die. You also gotta stop being a hater. When someone comes up to you with an idea or a thought or just showing you their art, yeah, have a discussion about it. Talk about it. Understand their viewpoint. But you have to treat other people's creativity like babies. You shouldn't yell at a baby. You shouldn't hit a baby. You need to salute the creativity in your fellow man. And unless it's literally something that is immoral and illegal, you need to foster their creativity. You need to protect it. You have to protect their bubbliness. You have to protect their playfulness. Even if like you're in a situation where like someone's really excited and they yell out real loud, don't even tell them to be loud. Let them be loud. Stop being a hater. And if you can't have a reasonable discussion with somebody about their art without having to tear them down, just shut the hell up. It's that easy. And I feel like one of the biggest things that we have to do when we are trying to be creative people is we have to decenter racism. And I think when people say decenter means ignore. It does not mean ignore. You cannot decenter racism without understanding where it came from. You cannot decenter something without realizing why it is the thing it is. It's almost like listening to a song. And like you hear the song and you're like, oh, I know this song because it's sampled from the song that came out in 2003. And that's the song that you think is the original. But no, that song's not even original. It's actually sampled from another song that came out in 1994. But whole time, that's not the original either. And the whole time, that song was sampled from a song that came out in the 70s. You need to know where things came from to be able to decenter them. You need to be able to make connections with things that happen in history throughout time to be able to foster your creativity. Because I'm not saying that nothing should be copied or brought forward or anything like that, but you need to be able to know where things came from. You cannot operate creativity through ignorance. You cannot operate creativity through ignorance. You need to know. Same thing with your race. You have to also decenter your gender. Yes, when you create, your gender can motivate you. It can move you. And it can literally help you yell out the things that you're trying to say. But for a moment, just for a moment, just sit. Don't feel like a man. Don't feel like a woman. Don't feel gay. Don't feel bi. Don't feel anything. Feel like a being for a moment and try to come out of your body. And when all that is stripped away, who are you? And I want you to create that. You also have to realize you need to invest in print media. Because every day, they are changing history. You can go back and watch your favorite shows on streaming platforms and they took stuff out. Invest in a DVD player. Invest in books. Invest in physical art prints from people. Invest in print media so that they cannot lie to you in the future. Your mom or your dad, they might be hoarders. Go look through their stuff and see if anything has changed. Because they want us to be minimalistic. They want us to throw our things away. One, so we can buy more. And two, so that they can change history. Invest in print media. And I need you to take on the belief of radical reinvention. Unlike Virgil's 3% rule, where you take something that already exists and change it by 3%, push yourself. Yes, you are still allowed to be inspired by things. Yes, you are allowed to have inspiration. You are allowed to take things from other things. You are allowed to sample. But push yourself. Push it 40%. Push it 50%. Push it 70%. Push the idea further rather than copying it to make $1. You will feel way more fulfilled. And why does this all matter? Because we are not supposed to live a life of solitude. Without creativity, you will never feel full. You will never feel fulfilled. You will never feel like a full person. And we all have a life worth living. And a creative life is not. An uncreative life is not worth living. Hi, I'm Hero, and I created POC Poses, and I can call it a lot of things. I can call it a figure drawing platform. I can call it community outreach. I can call it art resources or whatever. But my goal in life as a person and through everything I do, my goal is to create art and to create space. And I want especially Black and brown people to foster their creativity. I create spaces and give out my materials, and I'm not a millionaire, I'm not none of that. I'm barely a thousandaire. But I share my art with people so that they can foster their own creativity. I create references, whether it's photo books to document who we are through print media, or books on how to draw us. That's what I do. I believe that Black and brown people need to be represented by all people and supported by all people. And I would like y'all to come with this journey because Black creativity is important and needs to be protected. Thanks.